Hi everyone. It is a special edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. I believe we're calling it Three Guys Talking About Guy. Is that right? Did I get
Yes,
that right?
you guys talking about God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three guys talking about Guy, and I think Guy could be his own musical. Really, of course, we're talking
Hmm.
about Guy Gardner here. I think there could totally be a musical in the works. But delighted on this episode to be talking once more with Kevin Dooley, and now joining us, Mr. Eddie Berganza. Many
Hey.
thanks to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again, Jason, for inviting me. Just to let everybody know, if I may,
Mhm.
we were both, Eddie and I were both at DC Comics for quite a few years. And I edited Green Lantern and I assistant edited on Justice League, where Guy Gardner appeared. And I'm sure everybody knows that Guy Gardner is appearing in the new Superman movie out July
Mhm.
11th. We might as well um, plug Warner Brothers.
That's right. Hopefully, we all
And
get checks, right?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hopefully.
And Eddie, what is your link to Guy Gardner?
Well, I was your humble servant slash assistant editor
Mhm.
back in the day on Green Lantern and Guy Gardner. In fact, when I was introduced, you had just given Guy his yellow ring because
Right.
something weird was happening with the Corps as usual, which will be how I
Mhm.
entered fully into having Guy Gardner when I saved his life.
Hmm.
Yep, there you
There's the
go.
book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into all that, and you also helped him transition from Guy Gardner to Warrior when he called himself
Yes.
Warrior as well.
Hmm.
And you
Mhm.
you took over. He took over. So that's our connection to
Yes, that's our
Mr.
guy
Gardner.
history.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. Now the character goes back in DC past, but of course I was introduced to him, I think somewhere in the early 90s, late 80s. I was like, who is this Green Lantern with this bowl cut and this attitude? I mean, he's a very different kind of character.
This for you kids out there, this was the first appearance
Wow.
of Guy
Mhm.
Gardner in Green Lantern. This is Green Lantern number 59 back in 1968, which, wait, the smell of old comics.
Love
Um,
it, love it.
and that it was a story that was written by John Broom and
Hmm.
with art by Gil Kane and Sid Green, 1968, which I bought off the stands. But you kids probably weren't even around then.
It's true.
And
It would be an eBay purchase.
Yeah.
right. This is probably going to be worth a whole lot more when the movie comes out. But if
Mhm.
I may, the story is that in this issue is that Abin Sur had a choice of two people to become Green Lantern, Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner. And he chose Hal Jordan because you guys know
Well, I know. Yeah.
what?
He was closer.
He was closer. How Jordan got to be Green Lantern because he was closer. And this is a story where the Guardians revved up their magic computer, and what would have happened had Guy Gardner gotten the ring instead of Hal. And um, it's his story, his basically origin story. And I don't know if I should give away the ending
No,
of this.
don't. Spoiler.
Yeah,
No, they should do a Guy Gardner collection.
they should. They
Yeah,
should. Maybe with a resurged interest in the character, resurgence of interest, maybe this will happen.
Yeah.
maybe.
He's been a staple in sort of group books, but as you were holding up a little while ago, there have also been series focused on Guy Gardner.
Right. Now, yeah, there has been as well. I'll show that, but just to continue with Guy history, um,
Mhm.
Guy's connection with John Stewart. What is his connection with John Stewart, boys? I mean, guys.
Fellas. Well, in the old continuity, they were like the backups. And after that, in the current continuity, they kind of became the second. They were kind of the the deputy of the main Green Lantern.
Right. They were the backups, but Guy Gardner hurt himself or got hurt,
Mhm.
and Hal Jordan decided to choose another backup, and that backup um was John Stewart. That was in a comic written by Denny O'Neil, the great Denny O'Neil.
Is that the
You
one
can
where?
tell Kevin is a teacher. There's always a quiz.
Hmm.
Yes, yes, there is. He's throwing a lot of names and dates.
Mm.
What was that? Because I was introduced to John Stewart when Hal fell in the shower, and all of a sudden he had to get his reserve thread. Wow, that's how you become a Green Lantern.
Yeah, he became a Green
So I
Lantern
hadn't
by
read
somebody
Denny's
hurts
story at
himself.
all. But this is when Denny was writing Justice League, I believe. And he
No, it was when Denny was writing Green Lantern, Green Arrow.
no. I mean when he guest starred, that he filled in the Justice League. That's where Hal wound up falling in the shower.
Hey, I thought his
You
ring
you can
protected
become a
him.
Green Lantern in the most interesting ways.
Yes, you
Hmm.
do. Yeah. If
By
your main guy is
GPS.
clumsy.
And then I
It,
believe that Guy next appeared in Green Lantern during the time when like Mike Grell and Denny were in doing Green Lantern, and he guest starred in there, and then there you go. And eventually, this is a quick history lesson, and then
Mhm.
came
Yeah.
this
Yep.
classic. There you go.
And he totally gets the word bubble on the cover as well.
Yes.
Yeah, he got there's the classic word bubble.
Mhm.
I want to know how many times has Kevin McGuire done a version of this book, of this cover.
Right.
Kevin probably knows. And what do you both remember about his time at in Justice League?
We are quizzing. The One Punch. The famous One Punch.
The One Punch.
Yes.
I got it right. Batman versus Guy Gardner, a showdown right there. It is now classic. I wonder now. Batman is going to be appearing in the new movie, right?
I
No,
haven't
they haven't
heard
said
that
anything about a Batman.
confirmed.
He has a cameo. There is the famous One Punch panel
There
right
it
there.
is.
Yep.
Hey, it's comic.
Such an
You got to
attitude
be
for the
visual,
character.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
What
and
do you keep in mind with a character like Guy Gardner? What are the ingredients that you keep at the forefront?
You start now.
okay, that he's an whole, but he's a hero.
Mm,
He's not a heart of gold kind of. He isn't a heart of gold. He is he is selfish. He is, but he knows. I think he knows the right thing to do at the time. I mean, he is. He can be a gentleman. Remember
Aw.
a date with
mm,
density?
mm,
It was with when he went out on a date with Ice, and yeah, he can be a gentleman. But just keeping in mind that he is a no BS person, and he'll speak his mind, and he'll. Um, I mean, that was all. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie. That was all from Keith and Mark. I mean, Keith Giffen and Mark DeMatteis.
Yep.
They were the ones that grew his personality in Justice League to being somebody very, very distinctive and very outspoken. He wasn't just your regular run-of-the-mill um, what do you got, panty waist
mm.
superhero. He wasn't a nice guy.
Yeah.
Thank you
There's
very
that
much.
great cover. I don't know if you have it, Kevin, but there's a great cover of Chaykin where Guy is kind of giving a very nasty gesture, which I cannot
Hmm.
believe they got away with that at DC.
Wait, was that on a cover?
Yep. Yep.
I
Wow,
remember
because
that image as well.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
I
He
never
just,
remember
I don't know if
that.
they thought you always hold the ring like this. You can't even see it, but yeah, it's just that I was like, oh my God.
There was a discussion we had one time about John Stewart wanting to give the Guardians. No, the Guardians wanted the ring back from John
Right.
Stewart, and John Stewart was going to say, you know, you want it, you take it from me like that, and he wound up doing, you want it, you take it from me, because we couldn't do the middle finger, but still the ring was on the middle finger. Sorry, wrong hand. The ring was on the middle finger, so essentially he was saying, you
Hmm.
Twice.
that now that is a T-shirt.
Yes, it is.
How did
And
you
I,
how did you
oh,
approach Guy as a character when you were editing Warrior, Eddie?
Well, what was funny is like he wasn't my favorite because I grew up mostly on the Steve Englehart Green Lantern stuff.
Mhm.
So there he was a lot more obnoxious, definitely a pain in the butt and to Hal. So he was just like, ugh. And it wasn't until right before I got the book that you had gotten Chuck Dixon to come on board and kind of do a year one for him. And a really cool story with characters that we would go on to appear in the books later on. And they were all captured, and the Green Lanterns were forced to like relive their lives. And we got a lot of depth into Guy and kind of his really horrible upbringing and
In
how
Baltimore,
mhm.
right? He was in
yeah,
Baltimore.
yeah, and how bad his dad was, and the only thing he really had was like kind of sports, and that was it. So he kind of really, really had to fight for just being accepted everywhere. And then, having, and it explained a lot of why he reacted the way he did to Hal, because he always came in second. He was always like, had to prove himself. So of course
Mhm.
he was obnoxious. So it gave me a lot of depth to who he was. And like most shows, because I always thought he didn't work as a solo character because he needed that banter with someone. But once we were going to spotlight him, it's time to just give him more depth. It wasn't just him
Mhm.
being obnoxious. It was just like that was his take, but what we centered on, and this once Bo Smith came on, it was making him more of a Kurt Russell character from Big Trouble in Little China
Right.
by way of Tombstone, both Kurt Russell characters, where you got where he was coming from. It was, yeah, he was obnoxious, but he kind of, unlike most people, he had the power to back it up. So you're not, kind of fool yourself if this is who you are. And that's how he took it. He was right. He had to prove himself, and he stood up for the little guy. So on his own, you start when he didn't have to prove himself around Hal Jordan. He was just, I would say, more well-rounded, and you kind of got where these rough edges came from. And I really started liking the character at that point.
Yeah, that's the way it was in Justice League. The way that Mark and Keith did him is that he wasn't in Hal's shadow at
Mm-hmm.
that time. That he really had essentially been his own, even though he was another Green Lantern. I think it was very rare that Hal was mentioned. Yeah, in part of this Justice League, it wasn't. It was the different Justice League. I mean, the only one who was really there, um, that was part of the original Justice League, I guess, would be Batman and maybe John Jones. Um, so yeah, you're right that um, he became obnoxious, but yeah, perfectly put that he could back it up.
Right.
And he's one of those characters that kind of expands the ranks a little bit.
With Guy, yeah, it was a way to give him more depth. I don't think they really went all that much into the background of Guy in Justice League all that much.
No, not really. Like I said, it
Yeah.
was until you had Chuck Dixon do that story. There really wasn't much known about him, just that he had, he was a coach. He had, brain damage, which is the way it kept being said, which was bad
Hmm.
later on. We expanded on it, so it was a little bit more,
Yeah,
courteous aspect of it.
just a little bit of a background um, with the Guy Gardner. Oddly enough, I do not have Guy Gardner when he got into his own comic. Oddly enough, I do not
Hmm.
have number one. I could not find number one,
Really?
so I'm going to have to find it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Assisted and edited by Flack Berganza and edited by Splat Dooley. Um, but this, there were two quick backgrounds is that um, they wanted us to change the name of this book because they couldn't copyright Guy Gardner for some reason. They
Hmm.
couldn't sell it. Um, so they had to come up with something else. I think it was Andy, I think, that said Guy Gardner is a stupid name for a comic.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, we changed it eventually to well, I'll show this in a minute. But and then it was written by Gerard Jones and drawn by Joe Staton. And do you remember why Joe Staton wasn't on Guy anymore? Eddie, do you know why?
No, actually, no. I know he had a go, but I don't remember what happened.
He had to basically I heard that the um the sales on Guy Gardner were going down. So I went to what was his name? Wayne, the guy in marketing.
Right.
Uh
Probably.
I said, why is uh, can you give me an insight? Do you ask any of the people why they aren't buying more of Guy Gardner? And they said because Joe Staton is a cartoony artist and it isn't believable.
Hmm.
So I went to Joe Staton. I was very honest with him. I said, listen, to help the book, we have to replace you. We'll find you other stuff. And we did. But yeah, Joe Staton came to my party when I was leaving DC. I said, I fired you. Why are you here? And he said, you were one of the very few editors who was honest with me as to why.
That's cool.
And then so we changed Jerry Jones to Chuck Dixon, who was more of a macho kind of guy, and we changed
That's
Guy's name
cool.
to Warrior.
Yep.
There it was. The first
Hmm.
scorching issue, even though um, even though it wasn't number one. I think of the last issue before this, it's the last issue of Guy Gardner, and then the
Right,
next
right.
issue was
Yep.
number one. That issue was Warrior, and right there, Eddie Berganza and Kevin Dooley as editors,
Wow.
and Mitch Bird was a kind of a tough looking guy. Do you remember why we chose Mitch, Eddie?
Mitch had it was nice because Mitch had a very unique style in that it was nice way to segue from where Joe was. And again, they said Joe was too cartoony, but so was Mitch, but Mitch was more manga cartoony,
Mm-hmm.
kind of was appealing. And if you look at my history, I love anime. And with Ed McGuinness on Superman, it was just natural that's what I like went after. So I think I was a big endorser of Mitch coming on, and he just had that feeling that gave you that rough and tumble thing we were looking for.
Yeah, I got Chuck Dixon on Guy Gardner because Chuck had always wanted to work with Joe Staton. And then I found out Joe Staton was the reason why Guy Gardner's sales were going down.
Yeah,
So I replaced him, and then Chuck wanted to get off. And who did you replace him with, Eddie?
Mr. Bo Smith.
Yeah, Bo Smith.
Mm-hmm.
What
Bo.
was it? Can you think of what was Bo's take on Guy?
Again, I mean, one of the things, I mean, every time we talked about a script or anything, Bo would tell me, go see Tombstone. Because one of the things he'd always end a thing on, and I'm coming and hell's coming with me. That's kind of the summary for how Bo wrote Guy. That was it. It's like, hang on, he's bringing the guns, you know. Yeah, it was a lot of fun in that regard. Always, he had a really pulpy feel for the character, which was fun because basically that separated it from kind of the, let's face it, with Hal, you had ILM doing the effects. We were on a much lower budget. So we were kind of like, not quite trauma, but definitely early, we were there. Guy was the kind of the more meat and potatoes kind of effects we had. So that just fit everything. And also, and like I said, so the funny thing is around then, we basically were getting the Green Lantern shaken up. Uh, this was right around the time that Superman had died. So
Hmm.
everybody started looking, how did the other characters become, better? You broke Batman. So here they had just destroyed Coast City, and that's where we went down the path of Hal going a little nuts.
Hmm.
And then it
Mhm.
became that Hal was going to get rid of every Green Lantern. Now here I was, newly minted kind of editor, and I want to save my books. So I had to run around thinking really quick, how can I keep Guy around? Because he was the book was my first issue, I think, that had most to do with is where Parallax goes after Guy Gardner and
Hmm.
crushes the ring he has. Because I think he had the gold ring again to kind of try to survive. And there's a great cover of Guy in yellow armor versus Parallax.
I'll
Well,
remember
Parallax
that.
just takes his hand and crushes it with the ring. And you're like, okay, that's it for him. And that's where I get to pick up from it. And I came up and was was going with Bo. Okay, how we could save him? How do we save him? And that's where we came up with the Voldarian stuff, which is really, again, in retrospect, kind of hokey and very pulpy. But it was a way of keeping all the, morphing, changing, here I can make my hand into a screwdriver or a boxing glove,
Right.
whichever. And so we kept that aspect of it while also not depending on the ring for a while. And from there, it just, you see each issue is just pulpier and pulpier. And if anything, we would take winks at what was happening in the main books. For instance, the famous, fridging, as it became known. Most people don't talk about the fact that we also did one. We did Guy's neighbor, who Major Force mistook as Guy's mother. He also took her and put her in the refrigerator and her cat.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And the cat.
The cat was in the ice cube tray.
Wow. So a girl in the
Again,
refrigerator.
yeah, yeah. So again, just the absurdity of what was going on in comics. We just had a lot of fun with it with Guy. Again, it was just that in the tone of what he was. Um, if anything, it's kind of hopefully what will be captured in the movie, because it is along the same kind of spirit
Hmm.
that a lot
Mhm.
of those movies have, like Guardians and all that. It's like there's heart, but there's a lot of kind of kookiness and crassness, you might say,
Right.
before you get there. And I think that's what we were going for. Definitely, we made Aricia into a kind of little sister for Guy. So again, we were trying to round them off, and instead of just being an obnoxious, sexist pig, we were trying to say no. There's a lot of levels to him.
Yeah. Do you remember who came up with Warrior?
Where was Bo?
Well, okay.
Well, because remember he and Chuck were real buddies, so they kind of kept bouncing off of each other. And that's where the warrior thing came in, just as something that just explained who this character was. And again, gave him a rough and tumble name. Look, he's kind of wearing chaps in that first cover, if you look
I
at
know.
it. So
I know. I
it could
know.
go either way,
Yeah.
but
I
yeah, he was,
mean,
yep.
we've got the Western influence, right?
And
Yep, that's definitely
eventually
it.
he got the tattoos all over him.
Right. And that's when we get to
Mhm.
full Voldarian. And I always thought looked for the pain of a crossover, and I would try to come up with different things with other alien races attacking. And we did a crossover with the Justice League and some other books. Even got to do one with Action Comics, which is really neat because we did part one and two, crossing the two books, and we had the Dirty Harry of Superman's, which was the oh, what is his name? The one with the goggles. Why am I forgetting?
Uh,
Eradicator, is that right?
Yes, which was
Yeah.
just perfect. So Dirty Harry meets, Kurt Russell's, Clint Eastwood's, Snake Plissken.
Mhm.
That's kind of the whole thing, to have these two fight each other. And that was, again, things as an editor that you looked at. How do you amuse yourself from the monthly grind? And definitely that was a lot of fun.
The
There's
yeah,
oh
we've
sorry.
all seen the Superman trailers, correct?
Yes.
And it definitely seems that Guy is going to be a Green Lantern in it. Obviously, he uses the ring to um, I guess dispel the crowd or tell the crowd to shut up, whatever he's doing there. Um, and he's got a completely different outfit in it. Let me ask you both, what do you think about the outfit?
It's an
Violence.
interesting choice. Yeah. I mean, I'm waiting to see kind of how everything looks and feels before I create too much judgment around it, but it's definitely interesting. Metamorpho has his trunks on as well,
Mhm.
which I guess one does for
Although
film.
they're bigger, they're
But
more like boxers than they are.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
tidy whities.
yes, yeah. Uh, I like the attitude that Nathan Fillion has.
Hmm?
I'm not completely sold on the outfit just yet, but we'll see.
Yeah. It also
Eddie?
looks like the Justice League has it looks like they're going for a kind of uniform for them
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
Kendra has a similar outfit. Hawkgirl has a similar outfit. And yeah, it's weird.
Are
It
they
reminds
Mr.
the
Terrific does. Yeah.
Yeah,
are
yeah,
they the
yeah.
Justice League? In
Yeah.
the movie, are they the Justice League?
That's what some Justice League like. I don't think they're fully the Justice League of America in it. Just because they're also in the trailer to Peacemaker, Hawkgirl and Guy appear.
Yes, so that.
And
Hmm.
it's yeah, again, that same uniform. It reminds me more of when Jeff Lemire was doing one of those extended comics and everybody had Phantom Girl, Mr. Terrific, and they wore this black and white outfit. It really, really smacks of that. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
It's
Like Nathan Fillion. I saw somebody did a picture of him as a guy and then a picture of Guy from one of the Justice Leagues that Kevin Maguire did, and the contortion of the face was
Oh,
almost
really? Oh, that's
spot
great.
on.
mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jason, if you can find that, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he'll definitely bring some interesting attitude, which is what I'm hoping to see from the character. And it sounds like the two of you are as well.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion's an interesting choice to pick him just because he's done a lot of voicing of Hal, and I always thought he would have been great as Hal. He's got the hair, the whole thing, it's
Mhm.
just the whole package. So it was, just the director picking on him and trying to get him in that bowl haircut more than
Yeah.
anything else. But
You know,
they made
this
it
is
work.
what you've got to wear. You've got to
Yeah,
wear this.
yeah. You can be a Green Lantern, but this is the price. What's funny is later on, as I stayed on the character, becoming eventually the Green Lantern editor, along with Jeff Johns when he was writing it. We lessened up on kind of the dumbness because it seems silly that someone, you know, with that much of a powerful weapon would be played always for laughs and stuff. So in my head, he became less of a Clint, not Clint, Kurt Russell, but more he started going into Jensen Ackles. If you look at the
Mhm,
hair
mhm.
and everything, in my head, that's who once when Ivan Rice started drawing him, that's who I started envisioning, and we started changing the hair instead of bowl. It's
Who
startup.
is Jensen Ackles? Sorry.
That's don't you know your supernaturals? Jeez.
No, I don't. No, I don't. Never
The
watched it.
Winchester brothers. You'll have to teach him.
Never watched it.
Oh, you
Tanya watched
must.
it. My lady Tanya watched it, but I didn't watch the
No,
Superman.
you got to watch it. He's the one that likes pie. Has a lot. If you see it, there is a little bit of guy in him.
Okay. He likes
So
pie.
he likes pie, and you can't go wrong with a person who likes pie.
Right.
Very full of himself, always thinks he's right, and usually is. So again, that goes back to that.
You guy.
Are you, obnoxious and arrogant if you're always right?
Yeah,
Uh,
so you were on it when Jeff Johns was writing it?
Yeah, yeah. My main job became keeping him from killing Kyle. And,
Why do you
uh,
want to kill Kyle?
every
Saving the
time, like every
characters.
time we did anything, it was like, okay, and Kyle dies. I'm like, no. It was just like straight out. Every story straight out with, and Kyle is dead.
Well,
Wow.
thank you for saving Kyle.
You're welcome. It's just really, and if you want to know how, just check out the beginning of any of the Infinite Crisis. You see what happened to the poor Titan Risk. So that's kind of if you see Risk in a book, it's because that was the sacrificial lamb of keeping him away from Kyle.
I never thought of Guy as a joke so much as him having a little bit more depth and more of a more of a 3D character, 4D character. Because before that he was just one of the core, but he was part of. I mean, John Stewart had more depth, and then Guy got more depth with the Steve Englehart and with Keith and Mark. But I never thought of him as a joke because he did accomplish things. I mean,
Mhm.
he's no Nort.
Hmm. Hmm.
At least.
Is he a guy's
I read a
guy?
Green Lantern. I read a new Green Lantern recently. Um, and out of the shadows came Nort. And I'm going, really? Oh, that's kind of cool.
Oh, they brought him back already?
Yes,
Already? It's been years, but
already. Yeah, I got it for $1. But
No, but you're right. Even I mean, even later on, like what was funny is it was easier to do stuff with Guy than it was with John because
mm,
John was a little bit more perfect. Sure, he had blown up a planet, but he was trying to make up for it.
Xanthi.
And his background, as a Marine and stuff, so he had his kind of he was more well put together. While Guy
Hmm.
was still struggling in certain aspects, so it made him kind
Yeah.
of more likable, and you definitely had more story with him because of that. We
Hmm.
even did the a time story where that destruction of Coast City allowed us so much because we put Holly, you remember? She was the one that had the streak in her hair, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, Hal went out with her, and of course, then for some reason, then Guy gets sloppy seconds again, and they started going out, and then we discovered that during the destruction of Coast City, she's in the heart of it. So during Zero Hour, Guy, Supergirl, and I think Batgirl all went back in time, and he was trying to save her. But it was one of those, and Kevin would always push this on me as an editor. You always have to have a can't must. And he wants to save her, but he can't because he must save the larger world, all the people. And he's got to see his girlfriend die right in front of him. So again, these little things, it's like that's what makes good comics is when we kind of drag our heroes through the fires.
Yeah, and it's got to be a choice
Mhm.
with any character, a choice that a hero has to make. And you got choice of this, and you got a choice of this, and both of them are bad choices. And
Hmm.
what makes the hero is they make the right choice, and it costs them something.
Right.
So that there's um, of the conflict, there's a choice and a result that is a cost. I remember the character conflict conclusion, meaning the cost, and the character has to have changed, has to have learned something from it. And yeah, there was a lot of stuff where um Guy learned. I don't think we're going to be seeing warriors in the movie, the bar.
Who knows? It might.
They might.
Maybe
That
eventually.
seems like such
Maybe
a James
eventually.
Gunn thing. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
True.
it's the one thing that stuck. Warriors eventually wound up on Oa as a place for them all to hang out. So
Yes.
you got to have the bar.
Gotta have the bar. And didn't you once do a layout of Warriors? It was like a two-page spread
Yep.
of where everything was. It was like the layout of the Batcave, the layout of the Fortress of Solitude, the layout of Warriors.
Yes, the bar. And this all came out of the whole thing because at the time, Planet Hollywood was down the street from us.
Yes.
And
Ah.
so that was like the popular thing, having the themed celebrity owned restaurant. And if you look at that issue, and comics were a lot more fun back in the day before everybody got all legal. But we actually have Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, and I think Stallone, who
It's
were
still
the
on.
owners
Mhm.
of Planet Hollywood, show up and for the grand opening of Warriors and look at it and go, huh, yeah, it won't catch on, just there.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was allowed. I even got a special cover that the doors open for the issue where we introduced
I
Warrior,
remember that.
which was
There was a
insane.
it was a W and it opened.
Hmm. I got Phil Jimenez, who draws so many characters, agreed to do the issue so I could just stick every possible person in there. And it was a lot of fun. And we had, yeah, the whole issue just revolved around the opening of Warriors and all the celebrities and heroes that were coming in. And there was an actual address because at the time we had a Warner store at the corner of Fifth Avenue and I think 57th or so. So that's where Warriors was in the DC universe, where it was a Warner store in reality, I guess.
So if anybody ever wanted to go to
Nice.
Warriors, they would go
They could
there and actually wind up in a Warner Brothers store. So we made more money for Warner Brothers, and it'll, I'm sure, appear in our check, right?
someday, yes.
Yes.
Merchandising,
Yes,
merchandising.
exactly. The real money is.
Is there a Green Lantern that you most relate to or connect with?
Oh,
Or would you
wow.
be your own original lantern?
Huh?
One more two. No. Salak.
Really?
No, you don't know who Salak is.
I believe
Salak
it. I'm
was
like trying to think of why, how is Kevin like Selak?
Salak. I know the funniest cover copy that Andy Helfer ever wrote, and he admitted it himself, was at one time when Salak as Green Lantern was dating a one of somebody, and he said had the cover copy Salak and Alas, and he said, I know," but uh, for me, I guess it would always be Hal because I grew up on Hal. I mean, I still have my the showcase with Hal, and I always loved Green Lantern because the ring, it wasn't so much his fearlessness as the fact that the ring came everything came from his imagination. The fact that
Mhm.
he was his willpower, and if you had an imagination, you could be powerful. And that's what I always connected with. Granted, Hal made boxing gloves and fans and stuff like that, but there was always, and that's what I always tried to instill in the writers of when I was editing Green Lantern, was that remember he can make anything. And I think I had with Ron, I said no boxing gloves.
Yes. Yep, but that lesson stuck really well because then the edict on the Green Lantern books was that each lantern would create, you know, apparitions, creations that were character related.
Yes, part of his
Like John, who
personality.
had been we made into a sniper, having been in the Marines, was always creating these very intricate guns. While
Mhm.
he was intricate guns, boxing gloves for whatever reason with Hal, and then Guy would just take a bat or something very blunt to
Mhm.
hit. And here you have, Kyle creating a mecha. So it just instantly you just looked at their, constructs and you went, okay, I get who each of these guys are.
Yeah, exactly. With Kyle, I remember once uh, Ron and I had a discussion about if he created a motorcycle, would he have to know all the inner workings of a motorcycle? And Ron had him create a motorcycle, and the fact that it was a motorcycle that Kyle always wanted to have. So, and I remember Kyle creating pens to do his artwork sometimes.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it was always having to do with the character, not well, was Hal ever in the like Golden Gloves or something like that?
I don't know.
Or
We always try to figure that out. Why? Like, he was his dad. I think we might have done a little. I mean, his dad would get into fights, and then Hal continued on. So maybe that was
hmm.
just they were brash people.
Do you know
Family
what?
lineage.
Do you know what, Eddie? Oh, I have here around here somewhere, I have a cup, a coffee cup from Radu's coffee shop.
Yes.
They made Kyle lived above Radu's coffee shop and they made a coffee cup. Why did they never do a Warriors like beer mug or a
Oh, I
Stein or
know.
something. That would have been great.
Yeah, I forgot. I think didn't a freelancer make them for us? Because I have one as well. I have it like hidden because it's like a treasure thing.
What, the
Mhm.
Radus or the
The
War?
Radu coffee cup.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know whether I was a fan who did it or not.
Yeah,
But
not a fan, but I think one of our creators went and did a whole thing that had them printed.
oh wow.
I don't know if it was Daryl Banks
I was
or
gonna say Daryl maybe.
yeah, yeah, but
Because
it was
he designed the Radu logo.
And the
Mhm.
crab mask that everybody hated, but we loved.
Yes.
It was
I have
animated.
so many of those that what do you call it? Fans sent to me. That were put together by that. And wow. That would be interesting at a convention to have somebody do all the tattoos of Guy.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
True,
I think
true.
I saw one once. Got it
Did you
actually
really?
up with Warrior. Yeah, he's very happy and very boisterous about his warrior persona. But yeah, but that as far as for my favorites, it's funny. It's like, picking your children, and
Mhm.
frankly, after
Mhm.
being on, because like you said, when you're thinking of stories and you're helping writers, you kind of have to put your place in each of the characters, your mind there, so you can, if they're doing something, you can't just writers hate rewriting,
Mhm.
as Kevin well knows. So you have to give them a reason why you're asking for a change, and you have to give a valid reason. And you can only do that by really putting yourself into these characters. So you're saying, you know, no, Guy wouldn't do that. Guy wouldn't back down. He'd fight till he's bloodied. And that kind of, but why? Why didn't, So that's because one of our later stories was that the guy just would not give up the fight. This ring was out of charge, but he kept fighting. And it just showed who that character was. Because we were always trying to say they're not just the ring, because the ring,
Mhm.
Kevin knows. Archie Goodwin, for some reason, hated the Green Lantern Corps. And that's one of the reasons that they went away, because he thought that it made Hal not unique because he was part of, 36,000 characters. So the emphasis always was that in the back of my mind. And in a strange way, I was editing for Archie Goodwin still, well after he had passed. But in my his like a guardian, Archie said, would show up in front of me.
Mhm.
Why are they all important? So it was a matter of like making them unique even without the rings. And I got to like each of them in a different way. Kyle, obviously, I was there with Kevin for the inception as Ron and Daryl Banks created. So he special attachment because we had it was like your baby because we had to figure out a name. I remember Kevin late into the day looking through, I think, a baby book on names to figure out,
Yes.
yeah, what we would name Kyle. There and then nameless new Green Lantern.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that aspect, and then how he would relate to the characters. And what was really nice was Guy and how never got along, but Kyle and Guy instantly got along. Pete Tomasi wrote some really great interactions between the two of them in Green Lantern Corps because there wasn't any challenge. He didn't have to prove anything himself. If anything, the kid was coming to ask him, "Hey, what do I do with this? What do I do?" So all of a sudden, we put Guy in a mentorship with this young kid who had kept the core alive. So there was a certain respect that he had earned from Guy that no other Lantern had. So it was a very cool relationship. And some of the best issues are just those two bantering off of each other. They
I always thought
definitely.
of it as a big brother kind
Hmm.
of thing.
Yeah. And it was really fun. So that was nice. And again, just the aspects of how they grew. So yeah, for me, it's the core four of Guy, Hal, Kyle, and John in different aspects. And of course, the cartoon did an amazing job of just rounding out who John Stewart was.
Mhm.
Mhm.
The just a quick thing about Archie. Archie didn't like the Green Lantern Corps because of the way you said that it didn't make Hal unique. But the one thing that Archie really didn't like was the Guardians.
Love that character.
Because at one point, originally with Gerard Jones, we were going to bring back the Guardians, and that was going to be the big um, reveal with issue number 50, and they even did an ad. There's an ad somewhere for it that the Guardian's going to be coming back. And I remember Archie coming in to my office and said, "Nobody cares about those little blue."
Hmm.
And yeah, but yeah, continuing with that, we got a lot of input from a lot of people. Um, I guess it was making Guy the guy that's going to be in the movie. Seems like mostly the Justice League guy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel he has that feeling, that brashness, and
Mhm.
definitely is a James Gunn character.
Mhm. Yes, yes.
And would he be there were it not for the two of you and the contribution that you made along the way?
Oh, I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
I think, yeah,
True. True
I'd
enough.
like to think
True
he would
enough.
be, but thank you. Yeah. I mean,
I
he
told you,
was
Jason. I
definitely a
told you
character.
Jason was good. I told you Jason was good.
We
Yeah, really.
try. We try. And I mean, you
Thanks,
saved
Cinnamon.
Kyle's life how many times?
Yeah, that one. You could even ask Jeff Johns. I did. He's like, oh, stop trying to be. He said it on a panel once. He's like, he stopped me from killing Kyle again.
Mm. Was help me with the Blackest Night, Eddie. Remind what happened to Guy in Blackest Night?
That was great because he got to join in with the other characters, and it's where eventually we led to him becoming a Red Lantern. So he went around just pretty much the essence of just spitting up blood. And again, McFarlane made a toy of that that I have to
Hmm.
now chase.
Mhm.
But yeah, the more again his basic. I think Hal got to stay Green Lantern, but the others, John became more of the Indigo Lantern, more thoughtful for his character. But then, meanwhile, Guy's spewing out blood, and of course, Kyle became the Joker because he was the sensitive one.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
The
he was
artistic one.
yes, yes. Well, they just sensitive entity. Yeah, he was a Blue Lantern. He was Mr. Hope.
I have a Blue Lantern
Yeah.
t-shirt. I should have worn that.
I always said he would have been the Paul McCartney because he was the cute one, that everybody
Mhm.
liked. That's what Kyle became. He's
And
like,
Kevin, you can't see it in the video if you're watching the video, but Kevin is in full core regalia today. It's not just the shirt. There it is. Yep.
My Green Lantern. And I got like 10 Green Lantern rings. I could do the cover of
That's right.
Green Lantern number 49, which I also have on a t-shirt. Um, but yeah, I could do
Mhm. What
the
would you be
how.
constructing is the question.
Yeah. No, no. I remember just a quick in passing, I remember how everything started. How the whole thing started was Mike Carlin poking his head into my office and saying, "Can we destroy Coast City?" And me looking at him and go, "Sure." And that was it. That was how everything started.
Yep.
Everything started.
Giggles. No.
No. So, give me, I had written down some things here, but I think we covered everything
Have we?
about Guy.
It's been quite the history, and I know you both appear to have a Star Wars fandom connection as well. I'm seeing mugs
Oh,
and blankets and
Oh,
things.
huge, huge.
yes.
Yeah.
And it relates straight to every Kevin knows this. I would always bring up because one of the first things that Kevin let me play with as an editor was the Green Lantern Corps quarterly book. And to me, I basically got Tales of the Jedi. That's how I saw
Oh,
him.
yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
And yep, that was the connection. That's how I treated them. So for me, they were these warriors, especially then after, I forget if the prequels were out yet, but we basically did Order 666 with Hal
Hmm.
going around killing, and he became Vader, killing all
Yeah.
the existing Green Lanterns. And it was, to me, it was this is how you handle it. And it just every time I saw that, now that they're doing the on Disney Plus, they're doing Tales of, I just keep thinking, oh, I wish we got to do Tales of the Green Lantern.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
So funny is, what I was saying, how I saved Guy. and this is when you're a young editor, you sometimes don't think. And I would laugh because later on I would have my little Padawans, and I was definitely Kevin's. And he was so patient because later on I would face the same things and go, "Oh my God, how do you put up with this?" But let's get to they were going to cancel Green Lantern Quarterly because obviously we had just killed all the Green Lanterns. Well, I
Mhm.
had just put together an issue where Gene Ha had finally done an issue, and it was this character that was basically a cowboy with a duster and the whole thing that Ron had created, and he was going to go up against Lobo.
With
So,
Ash, right?
yeah, Ash and versus Lobo, and Lobo on the cover had a Green Lantern ring, just kind of looking at it, and it was awesome. And the book had some other really cool stuff. So it was going to be canceled before it even saw the light of day. So in my young hubris, I ran up to Paul Levitz's office and argued for my book. And he just stared at me for a while and went, sure. He, he told me, he said, you were so enthusiastic and made such an argument for it that sure, you can have one last issue. And that's how, again, I just, yeah, my love for the Green Lanterns echoed. What's weird when you're fated to do something, my aunt back in Guatemala would go to the store and pick out comics for me. And one of the ones she bought me is the one where Hal falls into his battery. And I said, this is the weirdest thing ever. Like I wasn't even like aware of the lore of the Green Lanterns, and we had this, and it was just so bizarre. And then I just followed, and I was became very kind of attached to this character, and never
Oh,
realized that I would wind up working with Kevin and all the fun we would have on that and all the creation. And then we would create a new Green Lantern, and that eventually lead on to like what was, I think, one of my career highlights is working on Blackest Night and just showing off how awesome all of these characters were. And then what Kevin called the many colors of Benetton as
mhm.
the Rainbow Coalition of the Green
United
Lantern.
Colors of Benetton. I'm still waiting for that pink, those pink lanterns.
Yep. Well, it's
Hmm.
kind of the sapphires.
No, no, I won't because there are children listening. I won't go there.
That's better
Wait,
than Brazil when they're brown lanterns when I was visiting.
oh, there you go. The rainbow lanterns.
Yeah.
I always like to ask, and we can cover anything that we've missed, of course, but I always like to ask where people can find you, if there's anything that you want to share that is current that you'd like to mention, or any of those kind of things as well. I always like to give space for that.
Oh, what are you doing? I don't know. What I am trying to get back into teaching a little bit, doing some stuff on Teachers Pay Teachers, and maybe do
Nice.
um, some substituting or and some reading. There's something that I just found out from volunteering with AARP, believe it or not,
Oh,
but
wow.
people who are older reading for kids and
Oh,
helping
awesome.
kids. Yeah, I just started looking into it just last week, so hopefully I'll be able to do that. Hey, what are
Mhm.
you up to?
What I'm doing some, so what I've been doing is mostly overseas and just helping artists there as well as developing writers. I was doing some teaching in Mexico, and again, expanding since I'm bilingual, I can help out people. And there's some really talented people that want to put comics together. So getting them to get their work so they can either self-publish or go on any sort of the GoFundMe's and just put their material together. And for a while there, I was even helping some people here at Hollywood, which people have a lot of money here sometimes. And I was amazed as that when I arrived to the gates and big old opening gates, and yeah, I sat with someone and they were picking my brain as to how you put a comic together.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, it's kind of funny. They did not realize what amount of work it is because they I think it was very like maybe around now, and they wanted to have a comic ready for Comic Con, and we went sure, and they wanted to hire Adam Hughes to do a cover. So it was yeah, I don't know
Good.
that they thought
Next Comic-Con.
right the reality of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, a lot of that like it's I one of the things I think I picked this up from Kevin is I do like mentoring a lot, and just new talent is just always exciting to see people that are drawing. And I still feel that comic industry kind of slowed down a bit as far as introducing new talent, because we don't really have that many new names now. If you look, your new young Gunn is someone that's been still there for a lot of years, and nobody's still excited about whoever is coming up next. So there's less of that. So
Well,
that's
Mike, if I may, just real quick, it seems to be less of the star system now, which I kind of like.
well, yes and no, because it's like it's really weird because you don't know what you're supposed to be buying a comic for, because not only is there less of the star system, but there's also less of storylines that are big.
Mm,
You're not hearing,
Hmm.
as many anymore. And if you do, you're like, but that seems just another reboot. There's not that,
Hmm.
like, where's your Blackest Night? Where's your, Infinity Gauntlet? There's not those like just
there's
great
going to be some
things.
kind of a big crossover that Mark Waid is writing.
Hmm.
That's the
I think
person
it's
I was
in
just,
August.
that's right. When I mentioned the Green Lantern construct, I was like, lesson plans. Can you imagine what you could do with a Green Lantern ring to create some
Lesson
classroom
plans.
resources and
Still has
lesson
to come from
plans?
your mind. Still has to come from your imagination. It
That's
isn't
right.
AI where you can just type it and all of a sudden it'll pull up.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I've done some AI like auto-generated rubrics and stuff. I never want to read all that. I'm like, this is
Mm,
just a bunch of stuff. Um,
Yeah,
I would much prefer a Green Lantern ring.
yeah.
yes, far.
Eddie, what are
Mhm.
you up to?
What I'm doing some, so what I've been doing is mostly overseas and just helping artists there, as well as developing writers. I was doing some teaching in Mexico, and again, expanding. Since I'm bilingual, I can help out people. And there's some really talented people that want to put comics together. So getting them to get their work so they can either self-publish or go on any sort of the GoFundMe's and just put their material together. And for a while there, I was even helping some people here at Hollywood, which people have a lot of money here sometimes. And I was amazed as that when I arrived to the gates and big old opening gates, and yeah, I sat with someone and they were picking my brain as to how you put a comic together.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it's kind of funny. They did not realize what amount of work it is, because I think it was very like maybe around now, and they wanted to have a comic ready for Comic-Con, and we went sure, and they wanted to hire Adam Hughes to do a cover. So it was, yeah, I don't know
Good.
that they like.
Next Comic-Con. Shame that they didn't do a Guy Gardner collection would have been great.
They
Seriously.
might still, like I said, we'll
Um,
see how the movie. It's so weird to see Guy Gardner action figures again
mhm.
all over the
Mhm.
place, not
Yeah.
only from McFarlane, but there's this new line of figures that has, this terrific guy. It's just pretty wild.
There's a Mr. Terrific comic book coming out.
I was gonna say. And I think Metamorpho has a series too,
Oh,
Really?
really?
Huh.
but they're or mini series, one or the other.
Huh.
Um, so there's room for more Guy Gardner there as well.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be fun. Hopefully they look as to him as to what made the character interesting. There's so many levels.
Need a Guy
Uh,
Gardner collection. We need a Guy Gardner musical. And we
mhm,
need a
mhm.
Warriors t-shirt.
We need
And
a Warriors
yeah,
bar, the way that there's that cantina here in LA where it's actually the Star Wars cantina, so I want to see the superhero version.
oh, okay. And we need to do the musical. And yeah, that's what we're going to do next. Oh, and
I
then
love it.
the Guy Gardner movie.
There you go. If he's big enough, maybe
They're
they'll spin him off.
Yeah.
they're building some things. The whole feel I get from the trailers is this is kind of like the foundation from which other things may be.
Hmm.
That James Gunn's going to springboard off of.
Yeah. And I don't know James Gunn personally by any means or anything like that, but just the social media presence, like the fandom comes forward. Like I think when he got the Superman gig, one of the first things he did was post about how he like loved the character because his dad introduced him to it.
Hmm.
Um, so I get that sincerity, and I mean, he's got crypto in there, so there's
Yeah.
got to be
Yeah.
that too.
hmm He's the first one he had to focus on that, so that was really neat. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see where the stories goes because there's echoes of one of the ones I did with Joe Kelly and Doug Mankey for Action 775, which was What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, which
Mhm.
is one another career highlight because that was a great story that just kind of shows you Superman is not corny
Yeah.
and he is powerful and you don't realize how powerful he is. And you're just lucky he's on our side.
Yeah, there is that scene in the new trailer where he's like, "I was saving people," and he gets really
Mhm.
emotional, which I
Yeah,
also
yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah.
Yes,
He's
yes.
not
I
a
like
Zen
that a lot.
master at all times. Yeah.
Yeah, and he
hmm
said it's and he pauses, doing good, and it's one of those things where it's sincere and it isn't corny.
Hmm.
Right, right. And that's the stuff. What's and the previous run gets such malign, but one of the things that's the Superman editor for back then that I always keyed in on was when young Kal-El says to Pa, but I just want to be your son. And to me, that was just so heartbreaking. Like that's who that character is. He wants to be one of us so badly. Everybody says, "Oh, he's a god. He's all this." He isn't. Like our treatment was always when I had the run was he's Clark Kent first. Superman is the persona. Unlike Batman, where Batman's Batman. Bruce Wayne's just
Hmm.
this thing what's on, which is why I always hated in Kill Bill Volume 2.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, he does this whole rant on it. And I'm like, oh, that is not the way we're handling him. He's not
Mm.
making fun of us. He's not pretending he's human in anything. He envies humanity because of all of that. And he's always been an ideal, and that's the core. And that's, going back to Guy, that's same because he's the underdog trying to work his way up. Superman's cool and everybody appreciates him, but Guy's got a tougher road because people just see him as kind of a buffoon just on the outside of the shell. And that's, I think, comes from the way his father saw him. So he's always been trying to prove himself.
Well, a buffoon, and also the second hand because it's Hal
Right.
gets so much attention.
Right. And pretty much third hand because then you got John also proving and people respect John on a different level as well.
Hmm.
Let's face it,
And
here
then
in
you've
Berkeley,
got
there's a
Kyle.
John statue in one of our in our area. Have you come to Burbank and seen it,
Oh,
Kevin?
yeah, I have. Oh, I've seen pictures of it. No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
gotta come visit me and I'll take you to see the
All right.
set.
All right.
There's a great burger place like it.
Oh, got me. Does it have shakes?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
it
I'll be there.
does. It does. And then we can go toy shop.
We're
You know
setting up
what?
meetings here. This is wonderful.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, many, many thanks to you both. Am I invited to the burger too, by the
Come
way?
Yeah.
on. Yes, we
Oh,
could
thanks.
This is what happens when Kevin and I meet. We'll be
Yeah.
at a diner for like 4 hours and then go, oh, why are they closing around us?
Exactly.
This this is a good
Yes.
friendship to have. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say enough how much I owe him
Oh,
for,
thank
and
you.
not just, for learning how to edit very well, but just in uh things that come up. I mean, it's just his fate to help people, I think for Kevin. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's ever told you this story. We did call the editor at one point. It was like a hotline, and it was supposed to be characters that we were answering as, but Kevin got someone it became a suicide hotline because the guy was very depressed.
Oh,
And the
wow.
rest of us are joking all this, and we look at Kevin, he's very serious. And we're like, what's going on? And he, writes us and lets us know what's happening. And it was just wild. And that's what I mean. Like Kevin's heart, like that's what I took away from him. He was
Oh,
telling how he told Joe
remember that thing.
Staten, why he was being let go. And that's what I always remember. Always give people a reason why you're doing things. They're people first. Sometimes, fans take that out and go, but I don't like this guy. He doesn't draw my character the way he should. Yeah, but there's a person,
Mhm.
that's helping their family. This is how he's earning a living. It's not just fun for him. So if you're gonna make a radical change like that, you kind of have to give them a reason and definitely look for more work for them. And again, all this straight from that guy. That's where I learned people first, And
Mhm.
that's yeah, to me, I always said he's my Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, yeah, and tying back to the Star Wars reference, I once went to a Halloween party at Eddie's, and I went as the Emperor, and his son always remembered me as the
Yes,
Emperor.
he does. That's to this day, he still calls. Oh, you mean the Emperor?
But
Nice, nice.
but yeah, Eddie, I can't say enough about Eddie. And here's another link between Eddie and I. We're both born on the same day, January the 7th, but 11 years apart.
Hmm.
That's why we made that connection. So, yeah, Eddie
Siblings
will
across
always be
time.
my. I want wait. If I'm your Qui-Gon Jinn, does that mean you're Anakin and therefore
No, no,
Darth? Wait a
I'm more.
minute.
Let's just call me
There was an
Obi-Wan. I'd rather
Obi-Wan.
go with
There was
Obi-Wan.
an Obi-Wan.
This is going to be cut for time, big time. But
Just a bit, though.
hey, we love Guy, we love Green Lantern, and we're looking forward to the movie on July 11th, Mr. Warner.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. We take free tickets and
Yeah.
Yeah.
popcorn buckets, just shouting it out to the Warner Brothers wherever they may be. Um, and you talking about the hotline made me think about the image of Superman kind of flying, hovering next to the guy on the ledge and saying, "I'll be
Mhm.
here whenever you're ready."
Mhm.
I think Guy Gardner would be the guy that would be like, "Dude, let's go get a beer. Like, stop."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and then he would like set you straight on it. So,
Actually, I will add to that. Not only would he eventually would say that, but I think he would push him over to go, is that what you really wanted to do? Because he's all
right.
about
That's
the hard lesson. Hard
mhm.
lessons. Now, now can we go get a beer and we talk about this?
Yeah. Yeah. And the heroic part is he would take you to beer after.
Yep.
Right.